Welcome to the Needs of Plants and Animals Unit Internalization video for Kindergarten Science. My name is Sean Tamarisk of KIPP, Massachusetts. Jenna Brutzman of North Carolina also helped in the creation of these materials. Our big unit question is, what do living things need to live and grow? And our anchor phenomena, the problem of the unit that students work on to help them answer this question is, why are there no monarch butterflies in the garden at Mariposa Grove? The students of Mariposa Grove Elementary School used to have a field next to their school with caterpillars such as the monarch caterpillar, which becomes a monarch butterfly. However, they recently converted that field into a garden, and they've noticed that for some reason, the caterpillars and the butterflies are no longer living there. So our job as explorers and scientists is to understand how can we bring back the caterpillars and butterflies. And for kindergartners, it's their introduction to living and non-living things. It's going to be an important part later on of understanding ecosystems and how they work. In particular, students in later grades, such as middle school, start to build food chains and food webs and learn that ultimately the sun is the source of all energy, nearly all energy for producers and consumers such as ourselves on Earth. Students later on are going to learn how interconnected all living things are, and ultimately they're going to use this information to tackle such challenging problems as deforestation, the problem of whether humanity can coexist with other living systems on Earth, or whether planet Earth is going to become a total wasteland. As we get older, we're going to hand off our ecosystem to our students to manage and take care of, and it's important they're fully equipped politically, personally, and academically to understand exactly how that ecosystem works. So before we begin, please make sure you did your pre-work of these three things. You can find these in the unit plan. That leads us to our first big question, what are living things and where do they live? Lesson 1 starts with the book Science Walk, where students learn about some of the living and non-living things they would see when they go outside on a walk to observe nature. And they begin to categorize these things. It's highly recommended you conduct your own science walk outside and get students observing living and non-living things and habitats firsthand. One activity you can have students do is actually create a square around a small piece of land and investigate all the living and non-living things that they can find in this small square. So we've got soil, we've got some grasses here, we've got some seeds at the end of the grasses, we've got some dead leaves which indicate there's living things above as well we should be aware of. And there might be a little bit of rock material in here. There might very well be some insects that students can find if they dig a little bit into the soil. And that can be a nice little microcosm to help them think about the features on a much smaller scale, the features of this habitat. Now, if you're like us, you don't have a forest right behind your school, but there's a whole habitat that you can find even in really densely populated urban areas. Let's take a look. So, your school might look more like this, but the same habitat features still apply. Sunlight, water, air, soil, it's all here. Plants and animals, it's all here. So check it out. You notice we've got some great little species of pioneer plants right here. A lot of them have seeds on them. There's some flowers to attract pollinators, to disperse seeds and fertilize the plants. You'll notice that the plants are growing for some reason only in the edges of this sidewalk here, but not in the middle. So it's a great question to ask kids why that might be. It might be that water tends to gather along the edges here. It might be that the edges provide just a little bit more shade for the plants. I don't know exactly, but there's a lot to see. You'll notice the culverts right here, you've got plants growing. Again, that might be because water during rains will drain down here and then accumulate and probably evaporate much slower than out here where there's no plants, right, and where the temperature is going to be higher. So if we walk along here, all kinds of great species of plants, really hardy little plants growing in these bits of soil. You might ask kids, well, why aren't plants growing right in the middle of the sidewalk here? And again, that comes back to the habitat feature of soil. Here they're able to get their roots into the ground, right? A little seed comes along, washes down maybe, stops right here, finds a little bit of wet soil, starts to grow, its roots get in there, and it's able to survive and thrive here. Oh, here we got a lot more. This is great. Couple more, some more habitat right here for plants. Just sitting in the loose soil here, right? It's super loose, this soil, but they're able to make a home here with their roots. So, no matter how urban the area is, it's gonna be a habitat for plants and animals nonetheless. In the next lesson, students begin to explore seeds by collecting data on bean or radish seeds before they've started to sprout. They'll return to these much later on once they've sprouted roots, stems, and leaves as a way of learning about how plants grow, the part of each plant, and the function of each plant part. In the next lesson, students sort living and non-living cards and discuss more about the key elements of what makes something living or non-living. The lesson after that, they read a book, A Plant in the Desert, and identify living and non-living things in a desert habitat, and then a book about rainforest to identify living and non-living things there. By the end of these lessons, students should have learned the elements of Progress Build 1. Go ahead and pause now and read it over. This all leads up to Progress Build 1 focus task, describing the garden. Please go ahead and take a few minutes to complete this task and then check back here for your answers. All right, you should have noticed that these three things are living things. These three things are not living things. Rocks do not grow, animals do breathe, grass does make more grass, and shovels do not move by themselves. Each of these questions is geared towards a specific misconception that students might have about non-living things or a key feature of living things. And right here you see the Progress Build 1 statement. Go ahead and review it, and then we'll go on to the next section. Great, on to big question number 2. What do plants need to live, and how do they grow and change over time to meet their needs? Students begin this section of the unit by reading the book Handbook of Plants and learning about how plants grow and the different parts of a plant. They then do a card sort to sequence cards in the correct order of plants growing before checking back on their seeds to see how they've sprouted. Assuming they were kept moist with wet paper towels, your radish or bean seeds may look like this. Students identify the different parts of them and describe their growth. By the end of these lessons, students should understand the elements of Progress Build 2 shown here. Pause now and look these over. Great, and here's Progress Build 2 focus task. Take a minute to read it over and then answer the questions. Go ahead and pause now. Great, here's the answers for the Progress Build 2 focus task. You'll notice these are correctly matched here. In number 2, students just need to draw a plant that is taller and has more leaves. That's all they need to get full credit for it. In this part, once again, we've got a matching activity. Here's the correct circles right here. And in number 5, the students should have circled the tree with the owl in it. Great. On to big question number 3. What do animals need to live? And how do they grow and change over time to meet their needs? We read the text above and below and learn about all sorts of animals that live and work underground as a way to meet their needs. For example, worms and ants and moles that dig holes to live in and to find food, and beetles that eat dead leaves that fall from trees. The emphasis now is on how animals affect the environment as they attempt to meet their needs. Students then do a card sort where they match animals with which habitats those animals can meet their needs in, learning that butterflies and hummingbirds, for example, need to eat nectar, so they need a habitat that has lots of flowers that make nectar. They could not do as well in a savanna type environment with much fewer flowers. Students also read a little bit from the Handbook of Traits book, which has the life cycles of a wide variety of animals and plants in it. Students also read the book Monarch and Milkweed, which shows students the life cycle of the monarch butterfly and how it depends upon the milkweed plant for its survival. Students then read the book Investigating Monarchs to learn how humans have cut down monarch habitat, causing monarch butterflies to become an endangered species. And they learn about the ways that humans are reforesting habitat so that monarch butterflies are making a recovery. They also learn that by planting milkweed, they can provide more habitat for monarch butterflies to reproduce and live. There's an optional activity where students actually identify a place in the school where they can grow milkweed and create butterfly habitat, creating a butterfly garden in the school. By the end of these lesson plans, students should understand the elements of Progress Build 3. Pause now and read this over. Great, and here's the Progress Build 3 focus task. Take a few minutes to answer this and then check back here. Go ahead and pause now. All right, so you should have circled these things here and connected these lines here. And in number 3, this is the sequence for the life cycle of the butterfly. And number 4, students can answer this question either visually through a drawing through writing or explaining it to you, since at this point in the year, most students will not have the writing skills to answer this question. And all they need to say is show just one way that the butterfly needs a milkweed plant or that the caterpillar needs milkweed plant. And number 5, they need to circle the squirrel digging the hole and just explain what the squirrel is doing or mention in some way that the squirrel could be changing its environment. Note that at the end of this unit is an optional Monarch and Milkweed mini book. This is a great opportunity for students to summarize their learning by filling in sentence stems and coloring and drawing pictures of a book that they will then share with the students of Mariposa Grove about how to make a habitat for monarch butterflies. On to the end of the unit assessment. So question number 1 assesses Progress Build 1. Go ahead and complete this and then check back here. All right, go ahead and check your answers here. Here's a question that assesses Progress Build 2. Take a second to do this and check back here. Here's the correct answer for that. And once again, what Progress Build 2 looks like. Go ahead and take a second to read it. Pause now. And here's a question that assesses Progress Build 3. Take a minute to answer it, pausing now. And here's the answer for this one as well. Students should notice that only the rainforest has tall trees in the picture, and tall trees are where the fruit grows. So students should be able to write or verbally tell you the answers to this question and fill in the sentence there. Once again, here's Progress Build 3. All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to fully internalize this unit and be as prepared as possible for your students. I greatly appreciate it. For KIPP teachers, and I recommend this for everyone else as well, go ahead and take the rest of the end of the unit assessment so you're really clear on what students are going to be expected to know by the end of the unit. Complete the unit internalization guide. If you're with KIPP, go ahead and submit the unit Google form on kippstd.org that will be sent to your coach with your responses, so you can meet with your coach later on, and then complete these remaining activities to prepare to teach the unit. Thanks again.